Well, throughout this election, we've been seeing a widening gender gap in voting intentions. The latest Angus Reid numbers show the Conservatives leading amongst male voters, with 42% of men saying they intend to vote Conservative this year, compared to 37% of men who say they intend to vote Liberal. But when you look at the women vote and how they intend to vote this election, the gap between Liberals and Conservatives gets a whole lot wider. 44% of women say they intend to vote Liberal, while only 29% of women say they intend to vote Conservative. That is a 15-point gap. To talk about the gender gap and gender issues in this campaign, I want to bring in some familiar faces to the show. Amanda Alvaro is a former Liberal Party communication strategist. Rachael Segal is a former director of policy in the Stephen Harper government. Of course, you see them on our panels here all the time on Power and Politics. But today, we're going to talk to them in their role as the co-host of the podcast Beyond the Ballot, which is focused on getting more Canadian women into politics. So thanks for being here, gangs. Good to speak with you. Amanda, I know you both started this with that goal in mind, but you know, we're seeing a drop in the number of women candidates. We've seen a lot of women getting out of politics over the past year or so because of the toxicity and threats and abuse. I mean, what's your sense of where this stands in this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, that is our sense. And that's exactly why we started the podcast, because we felt not only were we seeing fewer women put their name on a ballot and become candidates, but we were also seeing them get turned off entirely by politics at all. So how often were you having dinner table conversations about politics? Very rarely. And part of the reason was because it became so combative and it became so aggressive in the House of Commons that it was impossible to watch. And the nasty rhetoric that was going back and forth between the parties was a huge turnoff for women. So we wanted to start a podcast that would deal with that. And what we're finding is that we are getting women back into the fold. We're getting them more engaged and having more conversations about it. And while I would say that many of the issues that have dominated this campaign have been issues that are equally important to men and women, there's certainly some issues that are either exclusive to women or that women are, that they're more disposed to be a part of. So I think that those issues are important. And I think in the last 2 weeks of the campaign, we see a huge gender gap and divide in this campaign. So whoever can capture that vote or maintain or retain that vote is going to work favorably toward the end goal.
So Rachael, your thoughts on that, on the gender gap? The poll tracker averages, it's about a 15-point gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives. I know there was that viral moment, lead us Big Daddy, someone shouted at Mark Carney. I don't think that's what's doing it, right? Maybe it is. I mean, what do I know, right? But what's your sense of why that split is so pronounced at this stage in the campaign?
So typically, David, one of the reasons that we wanted to talk to women aged 30 to 45 primarily in this country is because that is the largest swing demographic in this country, meaning that women will often wait until later in the campaign to make an actual decision. And while a lot of people go into campaigns saying, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal, women often wait to hear what the policies are that come out during each campaign. And so it's really important to us that we provide those women with an opportunity to learn. And in 2019, Statistics Canada actually put out a report saying that women felt they were lacking resources to fully engage with politics in this country. And that's kind of the role that we're trying to play. So as women are sitting around their dinner tables or they're with their family on Easter, they're having these conversations about what's important to them. And they're really trying to make up their mind. We're the ones providing that information to them and trying to make politics just a little more interesting and fun. We have fun.
Well, look, anything you can do to increase participation, awareness, and access, Rachael, I think, that we try to do that on this show. We don't always succeed, but we try, right? But I wonder, though, Rachael, just back to the point, why do you think there is 15 points between the Conservatives and the Liberals? It didn't start that way at the beginning of the year. Trudeau was underwater with everybody, but it is slingshotted back so that Mark Carney has this commanding lead where if you're basically even with men and way ahead with women, well, that's a majority government. Why do you think that split is there?
We've seen historically that women typically vote on more social policies. So one of the things that's also interesting to me is the fact that 12% of women right now are sitting in support of Jagmeet Singh in the NDP, because typically at this point in a campaign, we would see that being higher. In terms of Pierre Poilievre, I mean, women are some women like him, some women don't. The same with Mark Carney. It's just that Poilievre has come out and talked about a lot of issues and made clear his stance on a lot of issues. We saw him the other day clarifying his position on social issues like abortion. And we're still trying to see how that will play out in the polls and when it comes to talking to women who may have been wondering about some of those positions before deciding to vote for him. So I think we have a couple of more weeks. We're going to see a lot coming out of all of the camps. And like I said, I think women are waiting to see what those positions are that are being put on the table before they ultimately make the final decision.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know how much policy is going to drive this election just because of the specific nature of this election, right? Where Trump just keeps T-boning Canada every 48 hours or so. But why do you think there's this split in the polls right now, Amanda? What's your assessment of it?
Well, I think Rachel touched on some of it. I mean, 3 in 5 women view Poilievre unfavorably. A lot of that unfavorability comes from tone. They view him as combative and aggressive. The style that he used in the House of Commons, the style that he's used for the last 2 years, he's tried to tone it back, but some of that I think really stuck for women. And then while there's issues that men and women equally respond to, whether it's housing or the economic conditions of the country or climate, there are some issues that are exclusive to women, like reproductive rights. And they believe strongly. The Liberals have been unwavering in their support of women's reproductive rights. Carney came out very clearly and said that he would defend the charter in that way. And in contrast, the Conservatives have been really ambiguous on that topic. The fact that Rachel said that Poilievre had to clarify is one of the issues. So he says he's pro-choice, but he attended pro-life rallies. He has candidates that are really anti-choice. And still he leads a party that allows for free votes on this issue. And while this issue isn't the issue that's dominating the election, the problem is when you look south of the border and you see what could happen to those rights, I think women are particularly concerned. They're going to make sure that whoever they vote for is both going to defend and protect them.
Yeah, and look, Mr. Poilievre, though, has been explicit that no law will be advanced while he is Prime Minister, no matter what, even if a backbencher tries to do it as a private member's bill. So it's important to put that out there because that has not been a part of his politics, so it has been a part of Conservative politics for sure. Rachel, I wonder, not quite a 50-50 cabinet, but pretty close, like it's 1 or 2 seats off. But the candidates running in this election, it's a much lower number, 36% for the Liberals, 32% for the Conservatives. And a lot of women getting out of federal politics and municipal politics especially. You're seeing them just walking away because of what's going on. I mean, when you look at those percentages, I mean, what are your thoughts about what needs to be done to sort of boost that participation in the actual elected life of politics here?
Well, I think we're trying to shift that narrative. We're trying to get women who have never had a touch point in politics to engage with us, to learn to be part of this political community across the country in the hopes that eventually they will put their name on a ballot. And we had this theory that we've spent a lot of time telling women to put their names on a ballot and saying we need more women in our legislatures, in our House of Commons, and yet nobody's really provided them with the resources to do that. And so that's what we do on a daily basis. I mean, I'll touch on the debates, David, because we're about to go into those. There's only been 5 times in this country where a woman has stood on the stage, 2 of which have been Elizabeth May. And so there's a big problem. We have amazing women that have run, that hold seats. There's a big still divide between women running, sitting in caucus and then running for leadership. And although to the Liberals' credit, they had 50% of their leadership candidates who were women, ultimately it was a man that won, and that's typically what we see. And so our goal is the long game, is to really encourage women from the beginning all the way to getting women up at the podium debating during the next federal election.
Right. Alexa McDonough, Audrey McLaughlin, and Kim Campbell would have been the others, right? There you go.
That's right.
Amanda, sorry, what's that, Tyler?
Very good.
Annemie Paul, the Green Party leader.
That's right.
And that was the most recent.
There you go. Forgot about that one. This is Tyler up in the control room, keeping me honest here. All right, Amanda, your just quick thoughts on this, and we got to take a commercial break. But your quick thoughts on what can be done to get more women running. Like it needs to become a safer space, I think, throughout the campaign and after this, right?
For sure. I mean, even when you look at things that women are really going to look for in the debates and care about, they're looking for authenticity over polish. Like, do I care? Does this person mean what they say? And they're looking for strength, but not being combative. And I think women need to see that in their elected officials. They need to see that you can have a healthy debate and a dialogue, but that you can have collaboration and respect and empathy for one another. And I think that when we get to a place where we're having conversations that have those things amongst our elected leaders, more women are going to come back into the fold. So that's why we're encouraging that kind of conversation on our own pod and on conversations on CBC. And we hope the more women we get at the table to have these conversations, the more likely they are to put their name on a ballot eventually.
Amanda Alvaro, Rachael Segal, co-host of Beyond the Ballot podcast, a liberal and a conservative, working together and talking here on the CBC. Thanks, gang. We'll see you again maybe later this week.